Okay, people. So we have a new film out which is based on a video game, right? I mean, when you look at how many there have been, right? And then the ones that are coming, like Super Mario, you know? Now, not all of them have worked, right? I mean, I think to this point, Sonic the Hedgehog is the biggest out of all of. I think that's right. You know what I mean? We've had things like World of Warcraft. You know what I mean? Like battleships. There's so many. Uh, so when I heard they're making a film about Tetris, hmm, that that was it felt like it was a stretch. You know what I mean? It definitely felt like it was a stretch. So this it's directed by Jon S. Baird, written by Noah Pink. It is produced by there are a lot of chefs in this kitchen, but we got Gillian Berry, Len Blavatiknik, Gregor Cameron, Claudia Schiffer, and Matthew Vaughan. Which, yes, because I saw it was through Mav or Marv, whatever his company's called. So I did wonder about that. It's executive produced by Danny Cohen, Taron Egerton, Amanda Ghost, Brian Grazer, Vince Holden, Ron Howard, Ziggy Kamasa, Ian McKenzie, Alexei Pazitotnov, Carlos Perez, Noah Pink, Henk Rogers, Maya Rogers, and associate produced by Barry Hermsley. The music is from Lorne Balef, Alwyn H. Kulker, cinematography, Colin Goldie, Ben Mills, and Martin Walsh edited everything. Casting is Lily Jeffery and Reg Persault Egerton. Daniel Taylor was on production design. Art direction is Celestria Kimmins and Joe Riddell. Alison Harvey, set decoration. Costume design is Nat Turner. And our cast, well, Henk Rogers is played by Taron Egerton. His wife, Tracy, is played by Mara Huff. He's got 3 daughters, right? Julie, played by Karin Narumi. There is Akemi, played by Ayan Nagabuchi, and Maya, played by Kanon Narumi. We then have Alexei Pagaknov, played by Nikita Efremov. Yes. And I don't think they've got his wife. Do I have his wife listed? I don't think they have his wife. They've got his sons, Dmitry, played by Timur Kasamakov, and Peter, played by Mark Kishnelakov. No, they do. Oh, Nina, his wife, was played by Evia Andrajatatic. We have got then Valentin Trifnov, played by Igor Grabuzov. Um, there is hmm. Robert Maxwell is played by Roger Allen, and his son Kevin is played by Anthony Boyle. We got Nikolai Belakov, played by Oleg Stefan. Robert Stein, played by Toby Jones. We got Hennick's bank manager, played by Rick Yoon. Dennis Jackson is played by Miles Barrow. We have got Hiroshi Yamaguchi, played by Tugu Igawa. His secretary is played by Ayano Yamanoto. We have got Minoru Arakawa, played by Ken Yamaura. Howard Lincoln, played by Ben Mills. His secretary is played by Moyo Akandi. Robert Maxwell's secretary Joe is played by Jenny Kian Green. Boris, played by Greg Kolpakachi. Sasha is played by Sophia Lebedevov, and she is Henrik's translator when he gets to Russia. Sergei is played by Dmitry Shakakois. Yeah, I think I butchered enough names. So, the gist of the film. Well, an entrepreneuring or enterprising game developer risks everything in a race to outmaneuver duplicitous insiders to negotiate a deal with Soviet Union bureaucrats for the international licensing rights to what would eventually become one of the most recognizable and widely played games in history, which is Tetris, just in case you are wondering, people. So, I mean, I think most people have probably played Tetris in whichever form it may have been, the Game Boy, on your computer, your PC, whatever, an arcade machine, right? So I don't know if a lot of people realized it was a Soviet game, right? Because, you know, I think when you come across it through Nintendo, Game Boy, or whatnot, right? You just assume that must mean that's where it's from. You know, it's a Japanese game. So, yeah, it was definitely a surprise. You know what I mean? I definitely thought it was a surprise to discover like all this origin story, you know? And the film, yeah, I had no clue what to expect. So it starts off, and I have to say they did kind of play it well. Like you had like this 8-bit, 16-bit graphics, the blocky old graphics from, the old Commodores, Ataris, Amstrads, and all of that those days. So that was kind of a little fun thing. And so the beginning is basically that, because we got the CSE convention, and I forget what that even stands for, right? It's computer something computer entertainment, something, I imagine. And consumer electronics show. Okay, I was completely off. But yeah, we start off with that. And Henry is there to promote a video game, right? He's got a video game of Go, and that's where he stumbles on Tetris. But I should say, he's actually talking to his bank manager, right? Goes into the bank and he's asking for money and he's explaining this whole thing. So that's when we get this whole, computer games and discovery of Tetris there and all of that kind of jazz, which, handled not badly, right? As I say, it's kind of fun with the graphics and everything like that. Now, right, I think this is where you have to set a lot aside, because people don't talk to the fucking bank manager and in how this is happening, and you don't make deal like it's all a bit of a farce, right? Because it's just like, oh yeah, I know I owe you all this money, but I want more money, and oh yeah, we're buddies, and let's have a drink and blah. And it's just like, what the fuck, right? But set that aside, and it is an intriguing film. It's not playing like something you might imagine. It's a bit of a kind of a spy caper in some essence. Not quite, right? But there's a lot of intrigue, secret agents and all of this kind of thing, like lies, intrigue, threats, and all of that. So there's a lot going on, right? Which, again, you gotta separate yourself from reality with, because when you look at all of this, firstly, going to Russia, the Soviet Union at the time, on a tourist visa, clearly doing work, right? Your ass is you're getting put in jail. You know what I mean? There's so many things which you do scratch your head at, right? They've got your passport information, so it's kind of like as soon as you hit customs, you're in jail, right? So, but that would make it a little easy, wouldn't it, for certain scenes and whatnot, right? It is interesting because I think there's a lot of stuff that it's going to be a problem, right? When he goes and he's like, okay, I'll put my house up as collateral. I'll you know, I'll promise all of this stuff, so right? When all of this stuff happens, okay, so we know we're going to get to a point where everything is at risk and, the stakes are high, right? It's like his daughter's play music recital thing, right? That's going to factor into this now, right? So we have all of this stuff going on, right? Then they try and, we get this bit where they try and make this film, about family, and it's just like, oh, you've got to realize that what's important in life, and it does get a little bit much in places, like you clearly can see where the story's going in a lot of cases, right? And how they're going to play things, but what the outcome is going to be, even without knowing this actual story in itself, right? Just because, it gets a little obvious, right? That's not that bad though, because I think the acting is really good. It's very solid acting, so you're there with that. And it is a kind of they do invoke the feel with like the music and the lighting and all of that, the costumes, the wardrobe, should I say, costumes. It does invoke the 80s. Right, so you are kind of like, ooh, yeah, and like the references and everything like that. Now, there is one thing, right? Because when you look at people from the 80s compared to looking at people now, do not look that healthy, right? You know what I mean? Like at the time, you wouldn't really notice, but when you look at like these photos and magazines and just everything, it's just like, yo, people looked kind of crazy back then. And so when you have this film, everyone does look a little too shiny, a little too perfect. You know what I mean? And then you've got other stuff like Hennick's, you know, he lives in Japan. But when you have scenes with his family, the kids always speak in Japanese, but they're understanding that he's English. He's understanding they're Japanese, but only talks to them in English. And you're just like, is that really how this shit would be going? You know what I mean? It just didn't make overly a lot of sense. Right? I get there will be some, conversations in different languages, but the way it's always like, he just like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it'd be exactly like that. That felt a bit weird. Also, just the whole negotiation situation, right? A lot happens in a short period of time, which you just be like, I don't know about that, right? I don't know about that. And it's all lies anyway, right? Like it didn't happen when you actually look into it, it didn't actually happen like it was shown in this film. They when they say this is based on a true story or this is based on true events, right? You have to take that mad liberally because yeah, they changed timelines, you know, just everything. They changed so much stuff, which is just kind of crazy. And the other thing is, right, they try to play, this whole thing into the crumbling of the Soviet Union, right? That this deal was the thing that brought down the wall and all of that kind of thing, which is just like, okay, what are we doing? What the fuck are we doing? That's a big fucking reach right there, son. So you've got that, and they also shoehorned in the other issues with Robert Maxwell into the boat, which is just like, okay, so we're meant to believe all of this. The other thing that's always kind of funny as well, we know what Robert Maxwell looked like. Robert Maxwell was fucking obese and gross. He was, but they try and play it down a little bit, which is like, what are we doing? We got this whole communism, capitalism thing in plot line in our scenes in Russia, which again, right, a little bit like, you have people acting one way and then all of a sudden they're doing other stuff, and you're just like, I mean, what are we doing here? There is some funky scenes, there is some things that are going on when it's just like, okay, so supposedly Hennick understands that negotiating in Russia is a problem, but right, you have certain things going down which are just like, okay, for someone who is aware that the government is controlling a load of stuff and all of this kind of thing, you're not really doing a lot to try and protect yourself, right? To try and mitigate some of the things that might happen. Conversations with people, not being very discreet, you know what I mean, is a little bit like, okay. And you also wonder, w- how did how did he pick his translator? Because we see mad people offer, and then it's just like, oh yeah, you, and you're just like, why? Right? That explain that a little bit, man. So yeah, there's a fun little car chase, which again goes into our old graphics, which is yeah, that's decent, right? That's decent. So I think overall, Tetris, it's not a bad film. Not a bad film. It's not fully gonna hold you down like a Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, right? And it's not fully, like, knocking the roof of things like The Big Short or stuff like that. But yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. It is long. It does run for just under 2 hours, right? And I mean, there are bits which you think, hey, I mean, we could have probably, there's a lot of stuff that kind of repeats. Like, we got a deal, we don't have a deal, they lied, oh, blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that does get a little repetitive, and you kind of think, okay, when you know the situation is that, surely you would just do this other thing, right? So there is all of that, but yes, it's not a bad film at all. Definitely exceeds expectations when you kind of think, making a film about Tetris? What? You know what I mean? So yeah, if you enjoy, I would say if you enjoy stuff like The Big Short, like Social Network, like Jobs, you know, then I think this good old little Tetris will definitely intrigue you. And if you like the game and you're kind of like, how did it all come together? Then yeah, again, this could very well intrigue you people. So it's on Apple, you know, probably for a little while before they pass it around other VODs. So yeah, if you want to watch it, gotta do Apple Plus. But there's some good things on Apple, man. It's definitely worthwhile. So yeah, they're the thoughts on Tetris, people. Take them as you will.